The president and the vice president, both clearly white men who are married to immigrants. Like, what? Like, and they're constantly
All
othering.
right.
I'm like,
I am joined today by Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Congresswoman, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me and for always being willing to answer people's questions directly. I really appreciate it. I know that right now we're in the middle of a government shutdown and it's a huge topic, but there are a couple of things I wanted to ask you about while I have the opportunity. So this week, ICE agents raided an apartment building in the South Shore area of Chicago, a predominantly Black neighborhood. They removed families from their homes, zip tied children, and separated them from their parents. What is a lesson or a message for non immigrants, for American citizens, for me, specifically Black and Brown people who have said, immigration is not my issue?
listen, you know what? This is the best illustration of why one of the messages that I give sometimes when I go speak is that I need you to survive. It's a gospel song. And so, especially when I'm in like a Black environment, I talk about that and I try to connect the dots. So, everything that is taking place, whether you're on Medicaid or Medicare or not, it is going to impact you. Same thing with immigration, whether you're an immigrant or not, especially because they are out of control, they are rounding up US citizens. But if you allow them to do the illegal things to non citizens, at some point in time, they are going to actually round us up too, not to mention just the fact that immigrants contribute so much to our economy in this country that overall, even if it wasn't a matter of you having to worry about somebody viciously coming into your home and dragging you out, you still were going to be impacted. So I need us to stop allowing them to divide us and make it seem like this ain't my problem, this ain't my business, because all of it is all of our business. We are all in the same sinking ship right now. And if we don't work together, we are all going to end up drowning to the bottom of the ocean.
It's been really scary to watch the way that ICE has really ramped things up, and I think in a way that has almost become normal to some folks. In a way where like the stories are even, I always tell members of Congress when I talk to them, as someone who does independent media and is reporting stories, I pay really close attention to how people engage with the stories I'm talking about. And immigration is starting to become one of those topics that see less and less engagement. I think because it's becoming normal to folks.
Yeah.
The images, I think we're just getting used to it. And we've watched ICE agents pull people right out of scheduled court hearings, taking them when a judge says, "Hey, come back in 60 days." We see masked agents pull people out of a hallway, push them, into an enclosed area.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I've heard rumblings that some immigration judges in California, for example, have allowed hearings to take place virtually. Do you think that that's something that we should be pushing for across the country?
Oh, absolutely. I actually was working on legislation when I was in the state house to afford more virtual hearings because it would, in my opinion, just make things more efficient. Now, when I was in the state house, we were dealing with COVID. And so we were having a lot of virtual hearings anyway. But I was like, well, we figured out how to do it. So why not go ahead and graduate into what makes most sense? In addition to that, it can be very dangerous, especially for any of our kind of criminal cases, to be bringing that many people in that may have criminal accusations for one reason or another. So I think courts across the board should engage in that. But let me go back really quickly to something that you just said about your engagement. I think specifically for Black folk, there were so many conversations that took place where Black people were like, but we tried to tell you. We tried to tell you, like, we had your back. We were voting for the Black woman, and y'all decided that you weren't interested in doing that. And it is a direct target on your back when it comes to this immigration stuff. But so many people were saying, oh, well, they said they're only going to go after, the bad guys, right? But it's like you don't have anything tatted on your head that says bad guy. And we know what he did last time, but people decide they want to have amnesia. I remember the images of children in cages. I remember that, right? So, how is it that you think that he's going to do anything different? He clearly does not care. If, in fact, if he is going to be different and he has been different, he was only going to push it to the limit. And honestly, he's exceeded the limit. We're talking about people that have disappeared, like they're being disappeared off the streets, and then they're going to Alligator Alcatraz and being further disappeared, right? Like it is absolutely insane and inhumane. And the fact that people don't feel this like a visceral thing, like they're upset with me for saying that the images that I see of ICE remind me of everything that was described when they talked about slave patrols. When you have a Supreme Court that says, yes, if they look a certain way or if they sound a certain way, that is enough. Like people need to understand it's only a matter of time before they come after Black folk. Like even if you don't care about immigrants, and to be clear, we do have Black immigrants as well, but like I mean seriously, we know this history as Black people. So it has been very frustrating for people not to be able to connect the dots and see, again, I need you to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, for example, the cases you just mentioned, Alligator Alcatraz, the detention center in the Everglades in Florida, and other circumstances where we are hearing reports from folks who are saying, this person has not spoken to an attorney, they haven't spoken to the family, we don't know where they are. Do you think that Democrats are doing enough specifically on this issue, or do you think, which is something that I feel, that it is the waters have become so muddied, there's so much happening, that this issue is sort of just getting lost in the ether because Democrats are also trying to get messaging across?
Yeah, so they believe in the flood the zone type of deal. I mean, it's constant. I mean, in the middle of the night, you have this deranged president that is posting random AI videos. I mean, like they believe in flooding the zone. They believe in the shock factor. They believe in like making it to where you can't focus and that you are distracted from the Epstein files. Release them. Like, I mean, that's what they do. And I want us to be more agile. I want us to be able to walk and chew gum and say, yes, you need to release the Epstein files. Yes, Tom Homan needs to be investigated. Yes, we need to look at Hatch Act violations as we are in this shutdown and you are politicizing federal government websites. Yes, we need to look at the illegal firings that are taking place. Yes, ICE needs to make sure that they are unmasked. So pass my Clear ID Act so that we don't have kind of this rogue police force that is going in. Yes, we need to care about our cities being invaded. Yes, we need to care about the fact that things are becoming unaffordable because of your ignorance around tariffs. Yes, we need to care about the fact that you are ruining any good relationships we had, and it is relationships that keeps us safe, and you have no understanding whatsoever of foreign affairs. And so, no, it's a lot. Yes, it is. But I think that Democrats are doing the work. And I think when it comes to immigration, it is more so what Democrats feel better about. The way that Democrats like to work is they just like to do the work. But if nobody knows that you're doing anything, then it's almost like you haven't done anything. And Democrats have not figured out how to communicate out the work that they're doing. And because of all of the other distractions, and because we seemingly, by the numbers, lose on immigration, not because we're doing bad things on immigration, but because they do so much better at messaging. And honestly, their messaging is a bunch of lies, right? Like, again, they said they were going to go after the rapists and the killers, the people that are supposedly causing the crime in our communities. But the numbers are clear. It's not. We know what the numbers show, especially when we start to talk about some of our most violent and extreme crime. We know that it's white supremacists. So they had to delete that information from the FBI's website because the data does not support what they put out there. And so it's important, and I appreciate what you do from a very independent standpoint, especially now that we've got these shakedowns that occur with this administration. Yet another problem where he goes out and he sues all of these news agencies, trying to make sure that he can minimize what is taking place with the First Amendment. He does not want the First Amendment. He hates it clearly. And so then he'll sue a newspaper or he'll sue a news outlet and get a payday, right? But with independent media, you don't run into those kinds of risk, of those kinds of threats. And so you can go out there and you can tell the truth. You can tell them that the face of, say, SNAP benefits isn't the quote unquote welfare queen, but it's rural America that doesn't tend to have too many Black people. You can tell them that the face of the most extreme violence and these mass shootings that are taking place are homegrown white boys. You can tell them that immigrants actually pay up to $100 billion, I believe, in taxes, undocumented folk, $100 billion in taxes contributing to our economy. And now those contributions are being diminished because they are afraid of the harassment. You can talk about the fact that tourism is down and we are going to lose billions of dollars. And even our friends to the north in Canada, tourism down specifically by 40%. We don't know what's going to happen with the FIFA games right now because people are concerned about sending people over to the United States and the attacks that they're seeing on people that aren't necessarily from here. And frankly, a lot of people that are from here, you can tell the truth. It's what media should be doing. It's what journalism should look like. But so long as they are able to continue to make people fearful using lies instead of facts, then we are going to continue to lose the conversation when it comes to immigration. Like, because clearly people don't have a heart for the violence that we see. But we need to tell the truth. It's not an immigrant that had anything to do with the shooting of one of their beloveds. It's not an immigrant that is going out here and taking their jobs. It's not the trans people. It's not all of these people that they were able to make it seem like they were quote unquote enemies. The only enemy that we have sits in the White House. That's where it starts. Him and all of his minions. They are the ones that are hurting us, not the people that they proclaimed were going to hurt us because they were, say, diverse, such as Black people like me, or the immigrants, or the trans community. That's not who's hurting them.
Yeah. I want to go back to messaging, which you just talked about. Like I mentioned, we're on day 3 of the government shutdown, the first government shutdown since Donald Trump's first term. There was not a shutdown during Joe Biden's term. Back in 2011, Donald Trump said that any government shutdown should always fall on the shoulders of the current occupants of the Oval Office because, quote, they are supposed to keep people together.
Preach.
This is Donald Trump's 4th government shutdown. We know what's at stake. We know what happens during a shutdown. I feel like that's been repeated enough. What I don't think has gotten to the people enough is the messaging from Democrats, which, in my opinion, I think did not start until a couple of days before we knew a shutdown was coming. Even though some folks back in June, back in July, we started talking about, okay, when September gets here, what's the next move? So do you think that Democrats did enough? Do you think that the party's messaging was enough before the shutdown? Because right now, if you message a federal government email, you get a response back from the Department of Education, for example, that says, we can't respond to you because the Democrats shut down the government. So when they have all those mechanisms to fight back, do you think that Democrats prepared enough to make sure that people knew where the blame should be laid?
For sure not. I mean, contemplating that they would keep, I guess we should always anticipate they're going to break the law, and we should figure out like the most extreme example, because we are not allowed to use, even when I do interviews like this right now, like I'm trying not to be in my official capacity, so I don't even have my pin on because there can be implications, right? So we have significant rules. Even me as a political figure in the federal government. And so the idea that, they're doing this is absolutely insane. And while we're shut down, we're limited in our messaging, right? But I could never go out there, and my staff is not supposed to be going out there and using federal resources for partisan purposes, period. And that's exactly what we see happening. So, I'm excited to have a conversation, and maybe even if we have to do a shadow hearing on this to talk about the Hatch Act and the violations and where we go and how we get anywhere. And one of the places that we could maybe get somewhere is if the Democrats take control of the House. This is yet another thing that we need to add to our list. But as it relates to the messaging, I will say that I am a bit more thankful for our ability to message on this particular issue. I think that people clearly understand that this is about healthcare, and they've not necessarily bought into the lies that the Republicans have put out there, which is why they're pushing it so hard. We just got
Mhm.
polling back today that suggests that even MAGA, I want to say 57% of MAGA, wants the Affordable Care Act credits to be extended. So every demographic of voter is on our side for what it is that we are fighting for. But one of the things that, frustrates me is like our delivery, right? Like, so how are we getting the message out? Because this idea of we're going to go and do a press conference, I mean, that's cool. And I'm not, throwing shade at a press conference, but we've got to do a little bit more than just doing a press conference, right? So, me personally, the very first day of the shutdown, I was on Black radio, like first thing in the morning, Black syndicated radio. And, for me, when I was working on the Harris Walls campaign, there were times that I would be traveling and have to be in the car for hours. Like there was no downtime. And they would have me calling into like talk radio all over the country. So, do I think that we've done enough to make sure that we communicate to rural America and some of those folk that are not necessarily consistently our constituency, even though the policies that we're pushing for are more beneficial to them? I think we lose people because we don't talk to those people. And so I think that that's what we need to beef up. Is it shouldn't be we just do a press conference or everybody goes on, cable news and we're good. Like I did radio, then I did local news, then I did national news. And I also did my own live that I streamed on about 5 platforms as well, simultaneously. So I think that we've got to be more effective in thinking about how we're going to diversify our communications. We have over 200 members in the caucus. We all have our different strengths. It's something I discussed when I was trying to lead communications for the caucus. And I think that that's where we're missing out. That's what we're not doing. And so therefore, we can say everything that is right, but if nobody hears us, or if only a few people hear us, have we been effective? And the answer is no.
I have one more question for you. I do just want to respond to what you just said and just say, and this is just my opinion, I think Democrats really need to lean into the strengths of the caucus, folks who know how to message. If you see that a member of the caucus, you for example, can show up to a conference and have a room full and an overflow room of young people under the age of 25 who are interested in politics, I think Democrats should really start listening to those people. I think taking a selfie of the caucus with some folks smiling as we head into a government shutdown is just not the thing that, I don't think that it reads well. And I think it's been a little troubling, especially, like I said about messaging when it comes to healthcare, there's misinformation about immigrants and how much they're actually costing. This lie that immigrants are exploiting a loophole and they're using emergency Medicaid to cover their emergency room visits when immigrants make up less than 1% of emergency Medicaid spending in 2023. And I think Democrats should really start making sure that people understand that. This week, Vice President J.D. Vance said that, quote, emergency rooms are full of people who don't speak our language. So he's not just talking about undocumented immigrants. Now he's just talking about people who are just other. What message do you think that he is sending? And what was also your takeaway? This is my last question. What was also your takeaway of JD Vance hosting a White House press briefing? Something that I think if Kamala Harris had ever done as VP, the media would have had a field day with.
Yeah. So, first of all, the whole game plan with this administration is othering, right? And it's quite astounding that you do have the president and the vice president, both clearly white men, who are married to immigrants. Like, what? Like, and they're constantly othering. I'm like, so if somebody do this to your children, I mean, Barron obviously gets a little bit of a pass because of how he appears, right? But JD Vance, his kids got some melanin. So I mean, I don't even understand how you can convince yourself to do something that ultimately may be harmful to your own family. Like that is diabolical. Like nobody is going to get me to understand that. So I'll leave that there as it relates to him hosting the press conference. I mean, listen, I appreciate JB Pritzker so much because he's like, it's time for the 25th. Baby, on January 20th, I knew it was time for the 25th. Lord have mercy. So, I think that this is only further evidence of um his inability to do the job. I think that that's what that is it's further evidence. Like he is passing off. Like the only thing he want to do is sit on social media and post AI videos. Like this is absolutely insane. It is absolutely insane that they are still challenging whether or not somebody who looks like me or someone who was born as a woman is qualified to do anything in this country, as we know that right now Black women are leading in these unemployment numbers percentage wise, knowing that over 330,000 Black women are now unemployed in Trump's America, even though they are the most educated demographic in this country. Like it is astounding that people don't understand that that is the epitome of what privilege looks like. When you look at somebody like him, and just because he is a white man, you just give him the benefit of the doubt and absolutely believe that he is qualified. But when you look across the room, when you look across this administration, from him to Pete Hegseth to JD Vance, none of them are qualified. None of them meet the level of qualifications of anybody that would have been in a Harris Walls administration. And that starts at the top. We know that Kamala Harris tried to tell everybody, but even privilege disallows certain people from hearing anything that she has to say. They just shut it off. He said he didn't know anything about Project 2025, so people believed him. And then what he started talking about just yesterday, Project 2025. We told y'all. I sat in committee and I had an exchange where I said, "Do you know how many times his name is mentioned in Project 2025?" The witness did not know. I said, "Is it more than once?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Is it more than twice?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Is it more than yes?" I said, "In fact, it's over 300 times." And no matter what kind of evidence we presented, like despite evidence, despite facts, despite it all, privilege is when you can ignore every single reasonable fact and give somebody the benefit of the doubt. That is white privilege. That is what he is enjoying. And frankly, those that decided to allow him to enjoy white privilege, you didn't just hurt us, you're hurting as well. You're the ones that are saying you don't know how you're going to survive. You also are losing your jobs.
All right. Well, hopefully, there are jobs to return to. There is all this talk about thousands of layoffs during the shutdown, and I hope that as soon as the government reopens, that we can watch Democrats hold Republicans accountable in committee hearings, because there's a lot that needs to make sure is put on the record so that we can hold them accountable later. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.